If you're looking for a content marketing strategy that actually drives leads and sales, not just useless metrics like brand lift, this is the strategy for you. Timestamps below, along with some other helpful videos to building out the rest of your funnel and of course creating your content. So this is the strategy I recommend following when you want to create content that actually contributes to your bottom line. Now, if you're doing YouTube, podcasting, or blog, this is the strategy for you. And whatever content platform you've decided to use, you probably have to do some writing, which is why I recommend getting some help with that. So I'll link up in the description to Jarvis, which is a new AI tool that can actually help you write your YouTube outlines, write your blog posts, or even help with your podcast descriptions. If you do decide to purchase, we receive a commission as a way to help support this channel. Now, there are only 3 different types of content I recommend making when it comes to actually driving leads and sales, and that's going to be a decision guide, a how-to tutorial, and then of course reviews, but we'll get to that in section number 4. The first thing we need to do though is figure out who our ideal customer actually is. Now don't worry, we're not going to go through every little detail, but we do need to know the basics of who they are, what they want, and what's in their way. Now the second 2 questions, what do they want and what's in their way, is going to be really, really important in figuring out what type of content to make, because content is about your customer, not your product. Now, don't worry, we're going to get to your product. We're going to get people to join your email list and actually check out your sales pages. But first, we need to figure out what are the big roadblocks that they are facing and what are the results they're trying to achieve. Because if we can make content that answers some of those questions, helps overcome some of those roadblocks, gets them one step closer to the result that they're looking for, they're much more likely to see you and your company as an authority and actually be interested in whatever the next step of your funnel is, whether that's checking out your product page directly or joining your email list. And one last word of warning before we dive into all of the keyword research is to remember that we do want to speak to one specific person when we are creating our content, because I like to say that content that speaks to everyone winds up connecting with no one. So we're not casting a super wide net here. We are just looking for those specific individuals who are along the path of learning and deciding whether or not to purchase your product or service. So imagine your offer and all the different people out there who could find value in it, and all these different people that we could target with content and ads and more content and more remarketing to eventually purchase our products or services. Now, the lines represent how much content or how close someone is to actually being ready to purchase. You see, when we go after keywords for, let's say, Google Ads, we're going to target keywords that are people who are actively looking to purchase. Whereas with content, we're not looking for those people who are actively ready to buy, because they've already looked at all the reviews, they've already done their cost-benefit analysis, and they already know the basics. They're just ready to purchase at the best price or the best deal. Whereas with content marketing, we're trying to go a couple steps before that and actually be that resource that helps educate someone to get them to the point of actually being ready to purchase the product or service. So here's some concrete examples. Let's say we were a mountain biking shop. Someone actively looking to buy is going to go over to Google or whatever search engine they like using, and they're going to type in mountain bike shop near me or BV Pro mountain bike, right? A specific type. I'm just making this up. I'm not a mountain bike person at all. And then someone who is thinking about buying and needs to know what specifically they want, they're going to be looking at reviews mostly, or doing cost benefit on the different maybe types of bikes that they should be buying. So they're going to type in searches like best mountain bikes for beginners, or mountain bike review, or BV Pro mountain bike 3 review, right? And then someone who is completely new, just getting started, they're going to be typing in things like how-to mountain bike tutorials or mountain biking for beginners, and they just need that basic information. Now, obviously, the further back that you go, the more content that you need in order to bring a complete beginner all the way up to someone who's ready to purchase, which is why those tend to be the most competitive and sometimes the most time consuming to put together, because it's really easy to produce that basic information. Whereas if you target the keywords that are in the red section, well, normally those types of reviews and those types of posts require some sort of actual experience, and you're going to be able to provide content pieces that are a lot better than some random blogger who's just been hired to write a bunch of reviews and essentially aggregates other people's opinions and has no actual experience. So let's go ahead and dive into 2 free tools that you can use to actually start finding some keywords. And the first free tool we have is Answer the Public. So all you need to do is head over to answerthepublic.com and then type in a search. Let's say how to mountain bike. We'll go ahead and switch this to the United States, and we want it in English, and then I'll go ahead and click on search. Now there are paid versions of both of these tools. I don't think that you need them, especially when you're just getting started. You can always get more advanced later. So now it's going through and searching, and it's found 70 different questions. And I'll go ahead and zoom in here since there's no way we can see. And you'll see that in this circle, they have a bunch of potential searches that people have been looking for around mountain biking. So let's go ahead and look at can. So can you mountain bike in the rain? Can mountain bike riding? Can mountain bike race? And so some of these aren't really going to make a whole lot of sense. You're going to have to do a little bit more research to say, okay, how is someone actually searching? Because they're probably not typing this in directly. But something I do want to point out here is, can mountain bike wheels be straightened? Well, if someone's trying to straighten their mountain bike wheels, that means they already have one, which means they're not a potential customer because they already have a mountain bike unless we were a mountain bike repair shop. So you also want to keep in mind of where someone is and what they might already have in terms of knowledge, experience, or actual products or services, so you don't make a piece of content for someone who is definitely not a customer. And then of course we could scroll up here, and where is another good keyword that we could dive into, especially if we had a physical location. Then we could do a bunch of content around the best places to mountain bike for beginners in the area. And of course we'd also want to make sure that if we didn't have mountain bike rentals, that we didn't make any content around renting mountain bikes. So this is a great tool for getting a plethora of keywords. It's ridiculous how many keywords you can get. The other free tool I recommend using is Neil Patel's Ubersuggest. Now, again, there is a paid solution, but I like using this to find other content pieces that are already performing really well for ideas. And when you use this in conjunction with Jarvis, that link in the description to the AI copywriting tool, it is amazing how fast you can actually create great content that is original. No way, shape, or form just copying other people's content. So we'll type in how to mountain bike here. I'll go ahead and click on search, and we'll wait for my slow internet. And once the page loads, it'll probably load a heck of a lot faster for you. We'll go over here and click on keyword ideas, and it's very similar to what Answer the Public does. It just doesn't group them in the same way. Now he does have this new feature called keyword lists, and that might be really helpful in the future. But what I really like using is content ideas, because you can easily come in here and get a nice short list. Now, obviously they want you to upgrade to get more results, but these are a great place to start. And you can also type in competitors' URLs to get content ideas and analysis and see some of the content that's performing really well. So between those two different tools, you're going to be able to get a lot of different types of ideas. And by the end of this, all you need is a solid list of 25 to 30 keywords. You don't have to have hundreds of keywords at this point, and you don't have to have hundreds of ideas. Just 25 to 30 solid keywords or solid ideas. Now, this is a quick little chart to help you differentiate the different types of keywords. So when you're looking at your keywords, you want at least 15 of them to be curiosity or learning, where they're looking to learn something new, solve a problem. And so the prospect intent, they're looking to solve a problem, whereas benefit analysis, they're evaluating specific solutions. So we do want at least 10 keywords where they're looking at a specific product, a specific service, or a specific strategy or method versus another. And this is going to be awesome content because versus content does really, really well. And when you do versus content with a specific type of product or service, or maybe you're doing versus content of, let's say you're a digital ad agency and you do versus what is it like doing it on your own or using a software versus going with an agency. So these types of decision guides do really well because it's very easy to integrate a call to action to the path that you think they should take. Spoiler alert, the path you think they should take is, of course, do business with you, whatever your product or service is, right? And then the curiosity ones do really well at casting a wider net, but we don't want to go too wide, right? Because then we're just going to get a bunch of looky-loos and DIYers who never want to purchase anything, which is the majority of people searching for content. And so once you have this list, you're ready to actually start making some posts. So let's go ahead and take a deeper dive into the 3 different types of posts that you should be making to actually drive leads and sales. Go ahead and hit that like button if you're still watching and getting some value. So when we go back to our customer journey here, they start in the learning and curiosity phase, and this is where we want to give them a clear decision guide or a complete tutorial. And then when they're in benefits analysis, this is going to be where we do a review. Now, the clear decision guide can actually fall into the benefit analysis as well when you're comparing products, which is one of my favorites to do for businesses, but you can also just compare different paths or different decisions. It doesn't always have to be product A versus product B. It can be product versus software. And of course, I'm starting to repeat myself. So let's go ahead and move on here. So just as a couple examples from our channels, one of our decision guides from our marketing channel was just talking about the difference between Tag Manager and Analytics and what each one could be used for and why a business would use one versus the other, although we wound up recommending both, but it's just an example of how you can compare and contrast different solutions. And in this particular instance, this was tied to a service that we had that helped people install both. Then the next one we have here is a tutorial, very similar to this video, and it was just how to run YouTube ads. And the final one was a review where we used to do a lot of software reviews. We'll get back to doing that soon, where we would compare and contrast a lot of different softwares and then look at the pros and cons of each one. And of course, if you want more examples, you can check out this channel because that's pretty much the only 3 types of content I make at this point. So let's go ahead and take a look at how do we actually turn this content into a call to action to drive people to our offer, or what I recommend, our landing page. So there's 3 different types of calls to action you can have in here. And the first call to action I recommend would be a lead magnet. So this is a free PDF, a free video presentation or webinar, although don't actually go ahead and make a webinar. That's way too much work. I'll link up in the cards and the description to a video that goes through all different types of lead magnet ideas. You're bound to find one that's a perfect fit for your specific business. And then of course, email marketing is what you're going to use to convert all those leads into customers to actually check out your sales message. So lead magnets, I think, are the best calls to action to have. And you can use the same 2 or 3 lead magnets in all of your content. It's totally okay. You don't have to feel like you have to create a lead magnet for every specific piece of content. That is a really easy way to not produce content because you're busy trying to come up with a new lead magnet. And I'll get to how to integrate these calls to action in a moment. The second one would be a strategy call. So if you are a service provider, specifically if you are a freelancer or you're on the smaller business end and you don't have a team of salespeople or you don't already have a big funnel set up and ready to go, then this is a great way to have people who've gone through your content simply just book a strategy call with you right off the bat. Now, you will get a lot of unqualified people, and eventually you're probably going to put a lead magnet in front of that call to action, but it's a way to just get started because at least having a call to action and having too many sales calls that are unqualified is way better than having no call to action and no sales calls at all, right? And then the final one would be a call to action to check out another piece of content. And so you've actually already seen that a few moments ago when I talked about the lead magnets. And the whole point of those calls to action is to move someone down that decision path. So you don't actually want to go backwards. So if you've created a authentic review or decision guide, you don't want to direct people to a tutorial. Those you would want to direct people to your product, your service, or your lead magnet or strategy call to action. So just keep in mind, you don't want to go backwards with your calls to action. And when it comes to integrating them, it's relatively easy if you're doing blog posts. Here are a few examples. This first one's from Digital Marketer, and all you can see is they just had a word hyperlinked and it naturally fit with the flow of the blog post. Another great blog that I recommend checking out is Nick Kalinda's blog. He does a lot of really deep dive marketing psychology posts, and his calls to action are pretty much a PDF version of his blog posts. Now, I don't recommend doing that for pretty much most content marketers because almost no one writes posts as long as he does. So if you go check out his posts, you'll see that they are pretty much ebooks. And if you're doing something like that, then it would make sense. But for the most part, the lead magnet needs to be something different. Again, link in the cards and the description to a video that goes through different lead magnet ideas, as well as a link in the description to a full playlist for creating your lead generation funnel once you have people who are hitting your landing page. Now, as a final example of a call to action, we don't actually have a product or service directly related to the content that I'm currently talking about, so we found an affiliate offer, and that's what I offered in the beginning of this one.
So I'll link up in the description to Jarvis, which is a new AI tool that can actually help you write your YouTube outlines, write your blog posts, or even help with your podcast descriptions.
And so hopefully with all those different examples of calls to action, you can see that you don't need any sort of fancy copywriting knowledge. You simply have to say what it is and then let people decide whether or not they want to click the link or check out the other piece of content. That's literally all there is to it. So now let's go to the final step, which is something every business owner and content marketer wants to get to, and that is having content everywhere. And so the huge trap is to choose one of your platforms and then try to take that content and syndicate it everywhere. And that is a huge mistake, especially if you are a one-person team or a small team. So what you want to do is use this chart as a way of figuring out what you can afford to delegate. So if you have a choice between making more new content or taking the time to syndicate it to other platforms, make new content. Wait until this content is producing enough income, enough leads, enough revenue where you can hire someone to take all the content that you've made and syndicate it to these other platforms, because you don't have the time to be a master of all these platforms. You have time to master one platform because you're busy running your business and actually keeping customers and clients happy. You don't have time to go learn all these other platforms as well. Now you might see really big influencers who seem to be everywhere, and what you don't see is behind the scenes and how many people it takes to actually keep those content machines running. It is a full-blown production for some of them. So you want to make sure that you are focused on perfecting your craft, really targeting those right keywords, oh my gosh. It's ironic, I'm screwing up while I'm telling you to get better at your content, right? So get as good as you can with your particular content medium, focus on that, and then let other people handle the syndication. And it also makes it a lot easier when you come up with your content calendar, because you're probably going to post anywhere from 1 to 3 times a week. 3 is the ideal, whatever platform you've chosen. And then those other days when you're not posting on your main platform, you can have someone else posting on the other platforms, syndicating and of course promoting your content. So that is the entirety of the content marketing sales funnel. Sincerely hope you have a much better insight on how you can actually create content, figure out what that content should be in order to drive more leads and sales to your business. So go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe for more deep dive content marketing videos and traffic videos just like this one. And until the next, keep building the business you love.